Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tom Surrey, and this is your news. Partly doing this podcast to actually see if it even works. I've had some technical issues, especially with connection. So partly this is a test to see if we'll even get out. But I'm just going to assume that we are, because even if we have problems, it should be recorded. So I'm just going to continue. There was something I brought up a long time ago that you see by the title. I was talking about transgenderism, and I've always wondered, if our society survives, how will we look back at what we have allowed to happen to children and adults, but children especially, with giving them tablets to prevent puberty to a certain age, with giving them sex changes, allowing it to happen. How will we look back on that? How have we got from an era where child abuse become one of the top issues to try and prevent, and then it's also then, in my opinion, child abuse then sanctioned by the government and the NHS. There are mounting referrals to the NHS that are piling up, and the left's contention has always been that these people needed to be given rights, privileges, and all these other things, and all these things would make life better for people, for transgender people. They were suggesting the whole world was to change for a tiny minority that we have no science on. The point being is the left concentrated on rights for these particular individuals. They concentrated on rights rather than science. They concentrated on rights rather than facts. And what you have as a result is a transgender community, although it's not actually a community, a transgender group of people have a suicide rate of 40%. So if you go down the transgender route, you have a nearly half a chance you're going to kill yourself. Okay, to me, that's 10 times more than it is in men in Britain, and men, the highest killer of men under 45 is suicide. So just to give you the magnitude of people who get involved, who go down the transgender route. Now, this thing called gender dysmorphia, which the left hates, it's one of the very few scientific sort of views into this that we've got, because everybody that tries to look into any of this scientifically are called Nazis, which is how we've ended up with 72 and growing genders. Which, look, if someone wants to have a gender identity, they want to identify with a butterfly or whatever, I don't care. But trying to bring that into a science when you've done no research and it's just your feelings, trying to bring that into a world where you can now say you can affect your children, mold your children in this way. Again, when you've got a 40% suicide rate, and this is by the way, that 40%, if a transgender person has a full transition, and we're coming to this, a full transition from one sex to another, the suicide rate doesn't go down. It's still 40%. So it obviously doesn't do whatever it is that they thought it would do. This is important because this is what the left ignore, the suicide rates, and keep going for rights, keep going for all these things to be available in hospitals. Now, many of you, and I've wondered many times what the consequences would be in just a few years of this. And many of you said court cases, this, that. Well, I remember talking to you way back, and I remember saying to you there was a charity set up by someone who had transitioned, and it was mind-boggling because it was a charity set up to detransition people. Okay, so people who had transitioned and then regretted it and then wanted to go back. But I couldn't name the charity at the time, and I felt like I couldn't really say much to you about it. But if I can find it, the charity is called, if I can find it, I think I've lost it again. Bear with me a second. I did write it down. If I didn't, I'll find it in a minute. It's just a bit of a long name. Where is it gone? It's set up by this, and honestly, I don't mean this rudely. I can't tell if this is a man or a woman that has gone through this, but they've been through some extreme trauma. In fact, I'll just read some of this to you. There's hundreds of transgender people who are seeking help to return to the original sex. A woman who is setting up a charity has told Sky News. I know it's Sky News, but these particular reports from Sky News tend to fly under the radar, and always, if you read the whole thing, they still stick up for it in some way. It says the number of young people seeking gender transition is at an all-time high, but we hear very little. And here's the thing about this thing about the transgender queue basically being at all-time high for the NHS. I think it was, what's his name? Everybody hates him now. It's something wrong with my memory tonight. I knew I shouldn't have come on. Milo. I remember him saying that a lot of parents, whether they admitted it or not, felt some sense of shame if their kids were gay. And they wouldn't admit it, but they almost felt it was a reflection on their parenting skills. And it was this big taboo. And he said, easier to say that your child was born in the wrong body than it is to say that they're just gay. Now, that's just a comment, and it may mean nothing. It may hold no water, but something about it resonated with me, knowing what people are like, keeping up with the Joneses, worrying about your appearance. You know, and on the side like the left that says sex is a creation of society, but then want to have their cake and eat it and say, oh no, I was born in the wrong body. You can't have it both ways. Either it's a social construct or it isn't. Why would you want to be in a different body if sex is irrelevant? It's, you know, so anyway, so this person detransitioned. One of the things this is happening to like between 14 and 19 to 19, 20 year old, and obviously older, but these are some of the largest numbers. It's happening while they're going through what all of us could relate to as the most confusing, difficult time of your life anyway, which is puberty. But what has been stated here is that these teenagers have gone in and they've had only 3 appointments, and in those 3 appointments that were made, that were attended, the staff were not only not really warning them of the risks, but actually actively encouraging them. I actually don't blame the staff. I think probably someone's put them up to this, but they felt like they were actively encouraged. They felt like these were quite sloppy and very, you know, not very informative meetings. You have 3 of these meetings, and then suddenly your kid's allowed to start taking, you know, things to stop puberty, things to stop all the natural development that should be happening, with unknown damage being told. It's amazing this is available in the NHS. We still don't know the damage. We already know the damage of even being transgender, and that's not a hit against transgender people. You are 10 times more likely than a guy in Britain to commit suicide. That's horrifically scary. So, but nobody wants to look at the science. So now the stories are coming through. So this person's been through all this. She feels like the process, and many people do feel like the process they go through at that age is just really not sufficient to put them off, or to make them think, or to make them hold on. So I'm going to find it in a minute. So she set up, there we go, I found it. She set up something called the Detransition Advocacy Network. What a name. Why couldn't you go for something easier? But the Detransition Advocacy Network. And I heard about this back in October, and I thought, you know, this is just a story. It's on Sky News. It's probably just words. Probably won't hear another thing about it. And I've been really searching to try and find out whether this ever actually happened. And I thought I couldn't find it, and I thought, nah, this was just staged. Anyway, I was wrong. It's real. This is it. This is it right here. This charity is real. She really did set it up. So this is insane. Basically, what you have is the NHS and the government are supporting kids and young teenagers, but especially kids who seem to have more rights than probably they should when when you're not fully developed. But even young late teens, dangerous time. And they are, after 3 appointments, and like you just said, a massive waiting list, allowing people to go from anything from taking hormones or whatever else to complete medical transition. So what you've got as the result of this policy now is this person who has set up this charity that then tries to undo all the mess that's been caused by the initial transition in the first place. So at this point, if we've got a charity trying to detransition people who should never have been transitioned in the first place, because the whole thing's messed up and it's child abuse by any other name, and we don't know nearly enough scientifically about transgender people, we certainly know that all these other genders are made up, and whether gender identities become a thing in the future, that's up to other people. I don't give a shit. But there's an X and a Y chromosome. That's how it is. And so I think that we all say the left acts with their feelings, and I think that's right. I've always said the left are like, they'll see a mouse in the middle of the road and they'll go and save that mouse and then cause a 10-car pile-up and think they've done good. That's how I used to think of them. But when you look at people like Owen Jones, you realize there's a much more evil side. But I still think the same thing applies. Oh, let's try to be really good to the minorities by giving them more rights, giving more credence to someone being transgender at an age when you don't know your ass from your elbow, and parents encouraging it. And I think that we'll look back, if we survive, we'll look back and consider this one of the worst cases of child abuse for many, many years. And because it's state sanctioned, it's kind of up there with the paedophile rings, because it's state sanctioned, man. The damage will last the rest of their lives. If they have a life, that, like I say, with a 40% suicide rate, isn't the more empathetic and compassionate thing to do to actually do the research and the science and say, no, we're not going to be transitioning anybody until we know we're not doing harm. I mean, Hippocratic oath, everything. I mean, they literally do not know they're not doing harm, but what they can start to see now from these kinds of results is the harm that is being done to hundreds of people. Bear in mind, there's not millions that have gone for this, only probably hundreds or thousands. To have hundreds of people already at that point up in arms and desperate for a way back, that's bad enough. And I think we're going to see more and more and more of this as the future goes on. So I was amazed to see that charity exist. And I think that, like I said, I think if we survive, we'll realize that we've committed one of the worst cases of child abuse. And here's the thing that really gets me, is I see parents all the time fighting for the rights to have the rights over their kids and have the rights to take away from the government what the government can do for their kids. And I support them wholeheartedly. But I just don't understand any parent's decision to allow their kid to go through this when we all know how messed up we were when we were younger, as though a massive operation at that age could solve all your problems, if only life was that simple. So I don't know what you think. I know it's not the super popular subject of our side, but I just think, with a charity like that set up, and for real, the fact that it exists points to huge failure in people's understanding, and again into carrying down to what's politically correct rather than what's just correct. It's a big mistake, and we're all going to pay for it. People's children are going to pay for it. I will say quickly a quick apology, simply because like I said, I was really just testing out my equipment today. I wanted to do this story actually a lot better than I'm doing it, but I shouldn't really come on today. There's a couple of interviews I want to do, so I'm going to go and take some time off, basically, just a day. But when I come back, I've got a couple of interviews that I want to do, so we'll get them done, and we'll get the ball rolling again. But I'm just not 100% with it today, so I don't really want to go too much further. I had a few other things I was going to bring up. I'm going to leave them till I'm a little bit more flowing. I just want to say hello to everybody. I'm just looking through quickly and saying hi to you, everybody. Hope you're all okay. Thanks for coming and watching. So I know it's old. So this Maz person who's in there, I have seen you about. You say it's old news. You say it's old news. How many people in this chat knew there was a charity to detransition people? Probably none of them. It's my job not to anticipate what one person knows. It's to try to anticipate what the majority don't, because the majority ain't got time to sit and read through this crap. That's my job. So if you know it, good for you. But a lot of people don't, and they need to know. You know, it's important. It's important because it's, like I say, I don't understand how a parent could make that decision so casually, and how kids have got so many rights that they can go and take an age before 16, go and take that decision. I know it's not that clear cut, but it's clear cut enough. And I just think, Jesus, you know, would you trust yourself to have made certain correct decisions at that age? You know, so I don't know. It just makes my head spin a bit. But yeah, the whole thing this was something that happened in the past, but talk is cheap. It was seeing whether this charity actually came to be. It's seeing whether this actually continued, and it has. It's real. It's not just a story. It's real, and you know, the regret of these people is real. And you know, they could talk about detransitioning, but from what I'm reading and understanding, it's not that easy, and in some cases, it just can't be done. So it's pretty much a one-way trip in so many ways. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day there. I'm sorry, not 100%, but I'll be back at my best. Tom Suri, Zero News. I'm calling it a day for now.
Welcome to the desert.